In this week's Forces Sport Show, we meet triple Olympic rowing champion Royal Navy Lieutenant Commander Pete Reed. He won gold in Beijing in 2008, London 2012 and Rio 2016, and in 2017 collected the OBE. But after announcing his retirement from competitive rowing and returning to a naval career, in 2019 was struck down by a spinal stroke, which left him paralysed from the waist down. After 19 months of treatment and rehab, Pete's about to lead the Defence Medical Rehabilitation Centre at Stanford Hall in the East Midlands, where we've been given exclusive access. Here, Pete talks frankly about his life-changing condition, what he's undergone, the amazing work at the DMRC, and his hopes for the future, whether or not he achieves his ultimate ambition of walking again.
Let's turn right. So it's a big place, and it's phenomenal, and and a lot's happened over the last 18 months, but and there's a lot to see as well. This facility truly is world class and a centre of excellence for rehab, and it's purpose built. And coming up to 3 years now, fully up and running.
When you first came here, what were your expectations? Because obviously life was traumatic for you after what you suffered with the spinal stroke. So realistically, what were you hoping would be achieved when you first came into Stanford Hall?
I think I was hoping to get as much leg function back as possible, body function back, and I was hoping to come out of it fulfilled, energised, with a purpose, and ready to integrate back into society. So I didn't know if that meant standing and walking again or running, but regardless of what we can get back physically, which I would hope would be maximum after everyone's efforts, it's just to have a purpose and a plan going forward. Similarly, we won't go down this.
Have the medical people that you've been working with, have they ever been able to explain why it happened?
Yes, I mean, so the best guess and what everything points towards, we now sort of understand it a little bit more, but it'll only be confirmed with an autopsy, so I can wait for that for sure. But what I think happened was, it's a spinal stroke in my thoracic spine, and right on like the crest of the rainbow of the thoracic spine, what they think happened was that the disc between two vertebrae was pinched as I was in extension, and so the bulging disc burst, and the plasma from inside that disc then came out into the body, but then pushed an artery closed, so that stopped the blood from getting to the spinal cord, so it stops oxygen getting to the spinal cord, so the cells in the spinal cord then slowly die over that period of time that they're starved for, and it's very difficult. There's no blame, there's no finger pointing. These are things that unfortunately can just happen. And you see it, this particular phenomenon, you see it in dogs quite often when they jump up to catch frisbees. And you see it in surfers as well, surfer spine it's called, because they pop up into extension. But I mean, these things happen in life. And there's no finger pointing. It's one of those horrible things where you just, okay, it's good to understand, it's good to have a clearer picture. It's not because I didn't lead an unhealthy lifestyle, but okay.
Anything but an unhealthy lifestyle with the training and the punishment you put yourself through to win those 3 Olympic titles and all the rest of it. And then, of course, when you retired from rowing, you also, I know, did the combat course at Lympstone as well. Are they contributory factors, or is it impossible to say?
I mean, they might be, but I was living my life as well. So I lived my life through rowing, and if you think about that, so I was in, it's called flexion, when you're bent forwards quite a lot to reach and pull on an oar. I did a lot of work in flexion, and then I was on an arduous course at the time, but that was how I lived my life from childhood as well. I was always out and doing things, and I was using my body, and my body never let me down, and actually hasn't really let me down now. Something bad has happened clearly, and it's not like it was, but it's been amazing to see how the body adapts to even these big traumas. So that moment where something bad happens and you lose the ability to walk, your body starts speaking a completely different language, and then how does it cope after that? And it does. You know, I'm sitting with you now, but I can move my legs a bit. I can feel. There are there are complications in my body that are more than just not walking. There's all sorts of things which I talk a little bit about on social media, and I'll continue to educate people on. But those things are improving as well, and the body is amazing, and it hasn't let me down, truly. Let's just have a look at the CT gym. Oh, it's good to be back.
Wow, this is extraordinary. What an amazing facility.
Isn't it? So this is Complex Trauma's gym, where before COVID, it was packed full of rehabbers, and it was really up and running. So all these bits of machinery would be used throughout the day. And look at the size of it. This is, I mean, the kind of work that I used to do with Jürgen and the guys has been done in here to a different level, but the same effort, the same output for me and so many others. We're lucky to have this, truly, and I think I've got so much back from being in this space and many others. So it's not just about the physical rehab. Next door there's a physiotherapy centre that's a similar size, and the staff here are problem solvers, you know, because everyone's different. They look and figure out what's best for you, and we've got the space and the time to do it, to get people back to as good as they possibly can. And that's right, you know, with service personnel who are willing to put their lives on the line, and they sign up to take life if necessary. When something bad happens to them, this is the centre where you can get as much back as possible, and that sits very well with me.
This gym, and presumably this is going to always be a very special place for you, because this is where I'm sure so much work, you have done so much physical work to get yourself back to where you are now.
Yeah, it's been a lot of time spent here. There's ski ergs in the background and weights, so there's lots that we can talk about spinal cord injury, or there are injuries, amputees that work out in here. But having had the injury, my battery during the day is much smaller than it used to be. My arms and shoulders take all of the load. So when we're walking around now, I don't have your big muscle groups, the legs, to get around. So everything is shoulders. So if you don't look after your shoulders, then you truly lose your independence. I can do most things independently now. In fact, everything. Steep stairs are a tricky one, but there's always a way around. And this place, it teaches you an attitude, which you can't buy. You need to earn that over time. And the attitude is, I can do anything I used to do, even stairs. You know, if it's driving, but it takes discipline, it takes work and time, and that's what you gain here. And what the output is, I'll be back into, as it happens, service life. So still serving, still in uniform, no different to before. And that's something to really look forward to. It's taken a lot of work from so many people, including me, and then a lot of creativity from the Royal Navy, but it can happen. The easy option would just to say, no, let's not do it. And that would have been a real shame.
Well, you've never been one for taking easy options, you know, throughout your own career.
No, and I often think to have an internship in grit and determination from British rowing and from military training to set you up for a spinal cord injury, I couldn't have been in a better place. I've said that a few times, but I truly believe it. My it's okay. And this, it looks bad, and especially when I see you, because we're used to speaking with me standing up, but it's not that bad. It's all right, and you'll never catch me with any self-pity. If you catch me self-pitying, then please just call me out and put a stop to it. But I don't think I'll ever be there. It's not that bad.
All the forehead and the cheeks.
Over the months we've seen on social media the progress that you have made. Today we've seen you doing yoga, which is possibly something might surprise a few people that that yoga is something that you would do. How does it help you?
I'm glad you saw that session actually. So it's certainly not whale music and incense sticks and pampering. That's one of the most fundamental sessions. So I sit at right angles now, like this for most of the day, and that means my hip flexors at the front of my hips get short and the hamstrings behind the knee get very short. So if you don't do the stretching and lie out flat during the day, your circulation is poor, but also, and I could tell you just dozens of things that you wouldn't imagine that this injury affects, but when you go to sleep at night, if you don't do that stuff, you sleep in a chair shape, and then the problem gets worse and worse and worse until there's a point where you can't stretch out into what was your standing position, because this is just your new body, because your bodies adapt well. So it's so important to get that right. It stops you from spasming. It's good for your mental well-being. For some of the rehabbers here, they're going through some complex psychological issues, which and it's mindful, it's time. So that's a key one, and part of the overall package that gets you up to a rehabilitated, independent, full of purpose state, ready to move on. I don't want to do down Olympic gold medals. They're really cool, but they don't actually matter, you know. Whereas being able to hug somebody without falling out of your chair and falling over and flopping, the things that do matter in life really do, like personal connections, other people, relationships, time, those things, they matter, and that's what we're working on now. And it does eclipse my last chapter. And all you have to do to avoid self-pity and to keep motivation high and to keep satisfaction there in your life and purpose and all of those things, all you have to do is be comfortable with being vulnerable and shifting your goals. So now it's not world records or podiums or anything like that. Now I'm comfortable with my goal being carving the turkey at Christmas next year, or eating with a knife and fork, one in each hand, and initially putting a pair of pants on for the first time. You know, your goals, they're daily, they take as much work and you get as much satisfaction out of them. And that's a nice way to live. So I'm satisfied every day. It's amazing, it really is. And as long as you don't dwell on the past, and as long as you don't think to yourself, what could I be doing now if I hadn't had the injury? That's poison. It's natural, but it's poison. You know, the past happened, I'm grateful for the memories, but I don't think, oh, what if I hadn't had the injury? I don't ever think that. I just think, how do we get to that stage by next week, so that we can be at that stage by next month and that stage by next year, which is all we did in rowing. And that process comes very naturally. And here, I don't have Jürgen anymore, and I don't have Hodgie anymore, but I do have Simone, and I do have Kim and Dean and Alice, and the staff here that are looking out for every aspect of my life now. It's the same support network that I had in rowing I've got here, and it's the same level of expertise and experience, and how lucky is that? We'll just have a look at the complex trauma wards physio and see if there are any patients in there. So it might look a bit empty as we're going around, but we're purposefully trying to avoid other patients because there's a lot of people doing some sensitive stuff. So, but this place it's full of patients, it's full of staff, and we're just picking and choosing our areas. But that's where the sweat work gets done, and the muscle and mobility and stability work. And then this is where the really clever neural physio sessions happen. Let's just have a quick look. So, if you come on in, this is the physio space, but this, especially pre-COVID, was full of patients, and we've just caught to a quiet time now. I can see Simone and Verity, my physio and OT as well, working with Tom there, and Charlotte's in the background as well. She's the vocational occupational therapist.
Now, I think we've seen quite a few shots over the last few months of you on those parallel bars.
Yeah, you have. So those are the parallel bars where Simone and I do a lot of work with STIM and getting up and walking. And I don't know how many lengths of those I've done. I should have recorded it really, but probably 20 to 30 lengths every day, and that's fatiguing. That's fatiguing like my old rowing machine ergos used to be.
And that must have been not only physically exhausting, but mentally shattering as well.
Yeah, it really is. There are ups and downs as well. I've had some falls in those bars where Simone's been there to pick me up again, and I mean literally falls, but then and back up. And now we're just at a stage now, and I haven't put it on social media yet, but I was walking last week with some, they're called AFOs, ankle foot orthotics, so some AFOs on and some stim, but walking just with the lightest touch of my left hand on one of the bars. So I needed the bar for sure, and there were some bits helping me out, but it was a walk.
Wow.
And yeah, truly amazing.
You see, the question that everyone is asking, and I've asked you this already once on a previous interview, is will Pete Reed walk again? And you have always said it might happen. But it's happening.
Yeah.
Bit by bit, it is happening.
It just takes an awfully long time. And there are little dips, there are peaks and troughs along that tricky road. I can see it, and it's worth working for. And if it does happen or doesn't, then I can live with it as long as we've done all the work. And that's exactly what we have been doing. And my health has to be priority, because everything else in life depends on whatever we can get back, to a lesser or greater extent. I think I'll walk again. It won't be the same, of course it won't, and it might be with some aids, but we're doing it already, and we're in a process. It's amazing stuff. And I'm looking at Tom here. He won't mind me mentioning his name. He's a brilliant guy, an Army PTI. He's more recently had his spinal cord injury, and I'm looking at him like looking back in time. He's going through the same thing that I went through a year ago. He's an amazing guy, perfect mindset, and he's on a journey, and it's lovely to see. It's really lovely.
But it's people like you he will gain his inspiration from in many ways.
So, I don't mind saying, no doubt, but I got my inspiration from the people that were a year ahead of me when I turned up, because our injuries are slightly different. It's not about whether or not we're walking, it's more of an attitude thing. I want to be pushing for those things, in that chair, going on those trips and thinking, wow, that's possible. And I think that's the strength of this place. You're living it with other people, and we're all military, so there's that mindset of never give up, keep courage through adversity, respect for others, have the integrity to turn up and train every day, and it's the right place to do it.
Very soon you will be finishing your time here at Stanford Hall and embarking on the latest stage of your Royal Navy career, and obviously with Jeannie as well, who has been an incredible support, hasn't she? I mean, you can't really put into words the help and support and the love that she's given you.
I retired from rowing, let's start there, retired from rowing with all of the excitement in the world, ready to start Chapter 2, which was my return to a more mainstream Royal Naval service, and we got into that and it was exciting. Jeannie and I had made this wonderful plan to move from our home in London down to the southwest to be in the role that we had created, and then suddenly plans change, as they often do. And she's been with me the whole way. She hasn't deviated. We've been a rock solid pair, maybe better than ever. She's amazing, and she's my reason why I do all this stuff. It's not really for me. It's not for the Navy. All these things are bonuses, but whenever the going gets tough, or whenever there's a little bit of a dip in training, rehab, life, I think of her, and she deserves the best version of me, and that takes work. But just having her in my camp, we're a solid partnership.
And you're engaged as well, which is brilliant.
Well, yeah, that's brand spankers. So I was ready to ask her a long time ago, and then suddenly this happened. You can't be in your hospital bed and justify asking somebody, do you want to get tied into this one now? And in fact, we had the opposite conversation where I said, look, if you don't want in, I won't judge you, and I get it. And she really told me off for saying that, and I didn't ask her again.
What sort of is the lasting legacy, do you think, of your time here at Stanford Hall?
I'd like to come back and help work with some of the patients, especially the new spinal cord injuries coming in, who it can be a daunting place when you very first arrive, but it won't be the last time I'll be at Stanford Hall. So I'll dip in infrequently for top-ups of rehab where needed, but also I'd like to become a little bit part of the support team that helped the rehabbers come through a very, very hard time, but with the right attitude, I think it can be a rewarding time, and one that builds your character. You can come out of this better than you went in, for sure. I mean, and maybe better than ever.